Hey, what's up? Welcome to Life After Death. I'm so glad that you're here. I have something I want to tell you. You will never feel lonely in heaven. That's what the show is about today. I don't know if you're feeling lonely right now, if you've ever felt lonely, but I have, and it's terrible. Feeling lonely can be an incredibly disconcerting, uncomfortable thing. I remember one time I had to go somewhere for work. And it was in another country I'd never been to before. And I remember when I got there, I got off the plane, got through customs, got to my hotel, and I just had this rush of feeling like, I don't know anybody here. I am totally alone. I don't know anybody at this thing that I'm going to. I don't know anybody in this hotel. I don't know anyone in the country, probably. And it hurt. I remember I turned on this, like on my screen on my laptop of just like fields to try to feel like relaxed, and it hurts. Being lonely is no fun. And that's just like one little acute instance, but you can be lonely for long periods of life. Why do we feel lonely here? Well, it's like if you have this feeling that you don't fit in with people or the people that you're around, or you don't feel like people see you or like you're valued or you're connected. And you might think, am I just being sensitive? No, you're not just being sensitive, because the need to feel that connection is an essential human need. And I know that because of where we're headed. That God, the divine mind, divine love and wisdom themselves has arranged it so that that loneliness is addressed. I can guarantee you that in the afterlife, you're not going to be lonely. And that is because of the nature of how the spiritual world works. Here's what I mean. So the thing that can solve loneliness or be the antidote to loneliness is community. When you're connected with people, you don't feel lonely. So what makes a community on Earth? We usually think of that as like, who do you live next to physically? And the physical communities that we're in are shaped by stuff like what kind of jobs are in the area. Maybe you moved for work. The climate, maybe you're a snowbird and you go here because it's tolerable in the winter. Or maybe it's economics, you can afford to live here. Maybe it's family, like you have ancestors in your past who have lived, still live there, so you have a connection to the area. Sure, that's how people are grouped physically, and then there you are. You're in the middle of this group of people around you. But is that really community? It can be, but you can be completely lonely even if there's plenty of people around you. We generally acknowledge that there's a deeper way to think about community, and that's more like a community of hearts, a community of minds. These kind of communities are centered around what you feel passionate about, or what you're interested in, or what you're working on, some kind of shared culture that you have. And back in the day when Swedenborg was writing, there was maybe a few of those, but it was kind of rare. But luckily, through the miracle of technology, it's much more easy for that kind of stuff to drive community. If, let's say, we want to work on a project together, we're not limited like we used to be to, I got to find someone who is within driving distance here. I can say, hey, let's work on this thing at the Swedenborg Foundation, and there can be people popping in from wherever they live who want to work on it together because technology is kind of emulating what the spiritual world does. You think about like a Facebook group around this particular topic. The spiritual world works like that. The spiritual world is organized not just in some ways, but in all ways by interest groups. Swedenborg went to heaven, saw heaven, and heaven is not just a big amoeba, like a big blob of people who are all the same. It's just like, oh yeah, there's heaven. You're interchange any one of these. We already talked about how there are different levels in heaven and how that's important to the functioning of heaven. But everything, all these levels are differentiated into countless, what he calls communities. And each one of these communities is a miniature heaven, and each one is unique. He says in Heaven and Hell 41, the angels of any given heaven are not all together in one place, but are separated into larger and smaller communities, depending on differences in the good effects of the love and the faith they are engaged in. Good effects of the love and the faith they are engaged in. I think if you were to put that in regular person language, it would mean that what you care about, what you know about, and how you use that in your life, how you put that into action. So what's in your heart, what's in your mind, and what you do, that is what dictates the people you clump together with. Angels engaged in similar activities form a single community. There is an infinite variety of good activities in heaven. Each individual angel is, so to speak, his or her own activity. Let's just throw that in. How about a definition of what you are? Essentially, we are our own good activity. Now that's cool. That's different. That's not how you think about yourself usually. The difference I can make to the human race or the world, fundamentally that is who I am. And you have angels who are engaged in similarities of those activities forming a community. But I don't mean everybody's doing the same external action. Like, oh, we're the community of people that mop. We all have our mops and we go and mop together, and that is the community. It's people who are working toward the same goal and doing it for similar reasons. Each individual within that is completely unique. And I think the coolest illustration of this I ever saw was way, way back, thousands of years ago, when you didn't stream a movie. You had this thing that was called a DVD. And we had the boxed set of the Lord of the Rings DVDs. And it was not just the regular Lord of the Rings, it was something like the deluxe edition where you had the movies and then you had these DVDs that were the making of those movies. And there I saw this total community of heaven. Because yes, there's like Elijah Wood and I don't know what the other actors' names are that are in the movie. You might know that Peter Jackson is there, but there are hundreds of people that were making this thing happen. You know how I don't know if you've seen the movies, but they wear like armor in them. Somebody was making that armor. Somebody was making the swords that were in it. And when you see these interviews with all the people who are doing that, and then the editors and the set hands and the deck hands and whatever else is in making a movie, they are, and I say this with tons of affection, they were Lord of the Rings nerds. Like, they loved Lord of the Rings. And they were so hyped. Like, I can't believe we're bringing this to life. And yeah, I'm going to make this chainmail right in the right way. The elves really would have made it. It was awesome. It was so awesome because everybody was contributing toward making this film, and everybody was doing it in this particular way that was suited to them. And the actors were like, oh, I couldn't have done it without these prop people. And the prop people were like, we couldn't have done it without the actors. And everybody was praising each other, and they were all in joy. You can be doing different things, but when it's going to the same thing, you're one. And that's what a community of heaven is like. My precious. Okay, still on the last thing. On Earth, physical communities can be closer or further away from each other just because of where someone built something and the geography there. I live close to a city that's called Philadelphia. Why is Philadelphia there? It's because there was a river in a place, and that made it easy to do shipping. I don't know all the history of it, but I'm sure it's something like that. But it doesn't work like that in the spiritual world. Swedenborg says in Heaven and Hell 42, the only cause of distance in the spiritual world is the difference of the state of our more inward natures. In the heavens, then, differences in the state of love. The placement where you are in the spiritual world has to do with your relationship to what is good and true, which is the Lord, and the way that you accept it. So that is what leads to your inner life, which places you. So if you feel and think and believe this way, you're over here. You feel and think and believe this way, you're over here. That's what creates your coordinates. When communities are very different, the distance between them is great. When the difference is slight, the distance is slight. Likeness makes for unity. That's the reason why this whole thing is set up like it is. The only reason you have an inmost heaven is because there are Angels, which are just people who have gone to the other world, who think and feel in a certain way where there are commonalities to them. That pulls them together into what a community on the larger scale, which you would call the inmost heaven. Same thing with the middle heaven. This is angels who think and feel a certain way. They make the middle heaven, which is a large-scale community. And same thing with the first or outermost heaven. All of these angels share something in common, not about where they got assigned to live, but about who they are and how they think and what they care about and what they want out of life. That's what differentiates here. That's even the difference between heaven and hell. Hell is just here because when you're in a state of hell, which is the enjoying of harming of other people, that is so different from heaven, which is the enjoying to deeper and deeper degrees of making life good for other people. Those two things are different, and difference is distance in the spiritual world. So the communities within any given heaven or between the heavens or in hell, if they're engaged in similar efforts, if they're doing things that are similar, they're going to be closer. If they're doing and loving and thinking about things that are different, they'll be farther from each other. Swedenborg even had to make travel preparations to visit parts of the spiritual world because of this principle.
When Swedenborg's state of mind was compatible with a certain area in the spiritual world, he was able to travel there instantly, because in the afterlife, travel happens by means of thought and desire. But sometimes he would be traveling to a part of the spiritual world that was in a very different state of mind than him. And then that travel took longer because it represented how much his mind had to shift in order to communicate with the people there. And the most striking examples of that are in Swedenborg's book, Other Planets, as he was traveling, shifting his mind, or having God shift his mind to a point where he could communicate with people who were thinking very differently than we on Earth think. In his book, Other Planets, Swedenborg writes, "When the Lord led me into a state like the state of that planet's spirits and inhabitants, then I was near that planet, and once I was there, I was able to talk with them." He describes traveling to one planet outside our solar system, and that spiritual travel took about 2 hours in earthly time. That's how long it took for his mind to shift to the new state of mind. And then another planet, it took him 2 days of mind shifting, and he was experiencing traveling through the spiritual universe during this journey, but it was really God shifting his mind, shifting and shifting it until he could be compatible, until he could be on the same mental wavelength. About that spiritual journey, Swedenborg wrote, "I could tell from the slowness of my trip there, 2 days, that the inner state of its spirits, the state of their feelings and consequent thoughts, was significantly different from the inner state of the spirits of our planet. Since I was taken there in spirit by changes in my inner state, I had a chance to observe the actual changes as they followed one after another until I arrived." So as he was traveling through the spiritual universe, he was also feeling how God was shifting his mind, and getting him there both mentally and experientially.
And that principle doesn't just stop once you get down to the size of a community. The spiritual world is run by laws, just like the physical world is run by laws. It's not like, if you're getting close to the earth, gravity matters, but once you're like way down on it, there's no gravity anymore. The thing that makes communities closer or farther to each other in the spiritual world, which is, hey, we all love and think such similar things that we're pulled together into a single community, that works even within communities. Swedenborg adds, all the individuals in a single community are distanced from each other by the same principle. So let's say you have these angels together and they're a community. The thing that brings them together is some kind of desire to make life better for the human race, some sort of love for the welfare of all. because that's them tapping into some piece of God. The angels that are most attuned to that and have that love deepest in them, in their hearts and in their minds, they are pulled by that to the center of that community. And actually from there radiate out the wisdom and love they have to the rest of the community, thereby pumping up the abilities of all these angels around them. It is the exact same model as that the Lord is all that love and goodness and is radiating that out, as we talked about in earlier episodes, which makes heaven as it is. That same thing is happening within any given community. People who have a reception in a different way or in more of a muted way, they move to wherever works best for them within the community. Everybody is situated in that community according to their state of mind and how it interconnects with the people that are around them. Everything in the spiritual world has meaning. Distance has meaning, and it's meaning that is set up to achieve the greatest net positive for everyone. So by having certain people at a center of a community, they can take what God is sending out and send it to everyone around them. That's why you have people in the inmost heaven, because they can most effectively take what God is sending out at the inmost level and radiate it out to everyone else. All things in heaven are about the health of the community of the whole heaven, and from that, the community of the whole human race together. That's what all of this distance indifferencing is doing. Alliteration power. So we've been talking about how people in the afterlife gather into communities, and we've talked about why that happens, because of similarities in love and thought and life action. But how does that happen? Like, how do you get to here? Is it that, that long, hook they pull people off a stage with? Nobody knows what I'm talking about? Fine. Heaven and Hell 44. You'll see the method that God uses. Kindred souls gravitate toward each other spontaneously, as it were. For with each other they feel as though they are with their own family at home, while with others they feel like foreigners, as though they were abroad. You may be thinking, there's some weird angels I'm going to hang out with when I get to heaven. I don't know if I like them. These are your kindred souls. These are your people. When you get there, you feel like, I love this. These are exactly the people that I want to hang out with. Being around other people is great. Travel, nothing wrong with that. But there's no place like home. Swedenborg says, when they, meaning you, are with kindred souls, they enjoy the fullest freedom and find life totally delightful. That is the intent of heaven, is for you to be in a place where you will feel most free, most like yourself, and most totally happy. Your community is going to be something that empowers you and sets your heart and mind on fire in a good way. Still, though, you might think, how do I know that this community, this place that I'm destined for, that God is going to send me into, how do I know it's going to be the right fit? What if I get there and I'm in a community, but really I'd be happier if I was in a different community over here? Where do I really belong? The Lord has got it under control. Check out this number. This number is incredible. I would almost say that it's insane. This is Heaven and Hell 45. We can see from this that the good gathers everyone together in the heavens, and that angels are differentiated by what good they do. Still, it is not the angels who gather themselves, but the Lord, the source of all that is good. So, we've got a specialist doing this. He leads them, unites them, differentiates them, and keeps them in freedom to the extent that they're engaged in what is good. So he keeps every individual in the life of his or her own love, faith, intelligence, and wisdom, and therefore in happiness. What's the point? Happiness. How are people pulled to where they need to go? Happiness. By happiness. God is the desire that everyone should be most fully and profoundly happy. That's why the universe exists, so it only makes sense that all the organization in heaven is for your happiness. The fact that there are communities in the first place, it is for the sake of the happiness of the people in those communities and then the goodness that they can do for the world, which increases the happiness of all from the communities. Everything is about how can we make more happy stuff. You can't talk about you without talking about the community that you're headed to in heaven. That is inseparable from who we are. The very heart of divine providence, according to Swedenborg, is God arranging it so everything in our life gives us the opportunity to become the kind of person that will fit into the particular place that is being prepared in heaven for us, because that is the place in which you can be the happiest, and you being happy along with everyone else being happy is the only reason why any of this stuff exists in the first place. It's the only goal that's actually a legitimate good goal to be operating from. So the loneliness you feel is really, it's just you noticing that maybe you're not in that community, meaning we're working our way through life, and yeah, there's good and bad stuff, but ultimately we long to go home. We long to go home. There is a home for us, and it is around people who we resonate most deeply with in our community in the afterlife, and whom we resonate with the activity that they're trying to do. We love not just, oh, I love these people. We love what we're trying to do because we know what we're trying to do means something. It means something to all the other people. This is the way we express love to the rest of the human race. That is the human destiny. That is what we're built to be, is in those communities. And I'm not talking about you can never have alone time. I'm not even saying that in heaven there aren't some people who live a little more of a solitary existence. That's great. It's set up so that everyone can be where they are to be happy. But wherever you are going to be connected to some kind of network of people that is going to be exactly what you need. It's built just perfectly for you. And in it, you'll be happy and you'll be productive and life will be great, because that's the point of everything. And that's what God is doing, and God knows what he's doing and how he's going to do it. So loneliness is temporary. It's there, but it's not going to last.